some
It
people.
says the people. It says
people grumble. You're right.
Be his neighbors.
And how I get the discussion going with that about, how when you tell this story to sinners, and they know they're sinners, and you got to argue with them about being sinners or not, with really bad people in Nash County, they say, you say, have you ever met anybody like that grumbles against people like that? Against sinners, and they're like, oh, we know a lot of people like that.
And they're talking about church people?
And they're talking, well, that's what they told me. When I went down to Rutherford County, and then I started to share around here, and where I'm from, West Tennessee, same thing. People just tired. Y'all see how that theme could be really attractive to people in the Bible Belt? And Manila, in the Philippines, in Burma, the theme that they like about Jesus, the theme of the stories they like about Jesus is that Jesus forgives sinners for free. Because they're under the priest system. And whenever somebody dies, you got to go pay a lot of money to the priest, do all these ceremonies to get your loved ones out of hell. Buddhism and Roman Catholicism is very similar, so it's a lot about money. And you're saying, and I've had people look at me and they're like, the monks told them that they're going to hell because they kill fish. These guys looked at me and they said, we're going to hell because we kill fish, because Buddha said don't kill anything. And the monk told us that. Said, now y'all killed fish. Now you come to me and give me the fish that you kill, and I'll make merit for you, and I'll get you out of hell. And they said, now Jay, you're telling us that Jesus hangs around fishermen, loves them, goes out fishing with him, and gives them salvation for free and forgiveness for free? And they were like, this is a lot better religion. They were like, they love to talk about religion. The religion to them is great. So they're not like, America, so where religion's like bad. We always say, we got a relationship, we're not religion. We always say that, but in Asia, it's like, when you talk about religion, they think, this is good, this religion's good, this Jesus religion's good. It's way cheap. So, they're like, well, I had some people criticizing our friends and their movement. They're just like, well, your people just coming into the gospel because of money. I was like, well, yeah. They like that part about Jesus, that he's just a lot easier in the pocketbook. And they don't have to pay you, So, does that make sense? All right, what else did y'all, when you did this, what did you discover about Jesus?
He was directed.
Yep.
He didn't say, can I come to your house? He said,
Yeah.
I'm coming to
I'm coming to your house. Yeah. Because he already saw where God was already working at. It's easy. That was unusual. Yeah. Right. Did any of you get through the story and without reading it? Feel pretty confident that you know that story? I already told it like a couple times before, right? And we went with the song. Everybody can remember the song, right? So, I was in a room full of missionaries, and this guy came in, and he was a professional storyteller. He learned how to do this at the Chronological Storying Festival over in Johnson City that they have every year, where they have all these professional story crafters, and they come in, and they do all kinds of stories, not Bible stories, but he went through all this training about storying, and he'd help people develop an outline through hand gestures for each story. And so he came in, and he was really showing all these missionaries. He said, now how many of you can tell the story of creation? And me and 200 other people were like, I can tell that story. That's easy. I know that story. He goes, like how the first day. And I was like, had my hand up. Yep, got the first day. Then the second day. And then he just went into what happened. And then I kind of like went a little bit like that. Like the third day, I was like, wait a minute. Yeah, what happened on the third day? And then he was like, fourth day. By the fifth day, he's like, and then what happened on the fifth day? And I was kind of like, I don't know that. That one is kind of hard. That was kind of hard. But boy, he just shamed everybody. Because everybody in there had PhDs and master's degrees and bachelor's degrees in Bible. And we realized we know the story here, but it's not here on the tip of our tongue. And Jesus said, or the disciples, they kept asking Jesus, why are you telling all these parables? In Matthew chapter 13, verse 13, open that up and read that. What is a parable? A story with a message. And they just got irritated with it. They're like, just read what they say.
Just say it plain.
Yeah. Why don't you just tell us what
It says, therefore.
Yeah.
Somebody read that.
Go ahead. Somebody read it out loud.
Which one? Which?
13:13.
13:13.
Oh.
This is why I speak to them in parables, because seeing they do not see, and hearing they do not hear, nor do they understand.
Why is he saying that he's telling them Bible stories?
They don't
Because
understand it.
they don't see it.
For those who are not seeking God, they miss it. For those who are seeking after God and after His truth, He reveals it. So he's kind of like God. He likes to hide stuff. He likes to hide stuff. And he gives out, the best preacher that we have out of 200 churches in one state in Burma, her name is Pew Pew, and she's 9 years old. She tells Bible stories like a machine gun. I mean, she's like Bible story, and then the adults are like, the rock left the sling, and then what happened? Because they've never heard this. They're like, well, that's a good story. God likes the underdog, and likes to overcome bad people and the giants. We like that. We're like that. But she's just telling the Bible story. And she tells the Bible story better than anybody. And she's 9 years old. So I said, my best preacher out of the whole network there in that state she's 9 years old. And her mom was a prostitute. And she got saved because her husband had been a lazy drunk and went out and so she went out and got the money the old-fashioned way. You know what I mean? And then her husband found out about what she was doing, so he left her, and she came down to the big city looking for him, and she heard about a man who would never leave her, never forsake her, and forgive her of all her sins. She said, according to my religion, Buddhism, I'm going straight to hell because I've committed adultery. Because Buddha said, don't commit adultery, don't kill, don't steal. She said, I've done all that. I've lied. And she said, I'm going to hell. I know I'm going to hell. And then she heard about Jesus, and that was in August. She was baptized in September. We showed her how to do church, how to do a simple Bible story and a study, and what is the basic elements of a simple way to do church, simple church. And I looked at her. I showed her the vision for a multiplying network of churches, kind of like these rabbits on this page right here. And I said, do you think you can do this, Than Than? And she looked at me with a big wad of chew in the back of her mouth. She's like, yeah, any dummy can do this. This is easy. What, you think I'm stupid? Of course I can do this. By Christmas, that was in September, by Christmas she had started 14 churches. And I said, how did you do that? Because I know professional Christians have never done that before. I don't want to tell her that I've never started 14 churches, because that would be embarrassing. So she said, 11 o'clock Sunday morning, people come to her house. They hit this bell, they worship Jesus a little bit, and then ask him questions, and then they tell the Bible story that her and her daughter had prepared the night before. Her daughter tells the Bible story. And then she just pulls out these questions that I told her to ask. And she's like, now what truth did you learn about Jesus in that story? And all these people are sinners, and they're just, they're like, well, it seems like Jesus likes sinful people, like Zacchaeus. And she's like, yeah, that's right. Now, who needs to hear this story? And who needs to hear this truth and this love of Jesus? And they're like, well, my mom and my dad and my cousins, they want to hear this. And then you go back out there and tell them that same story my daughter just told you. With a big wad of chew in the back of her mouth. She says, you go out and tell the story because your people are bad. And they're like, okay. They turn around and go tell the story at 2 o'clock that same day, on Sunday. They go back and repeat the story that her daughter Pew Pew told them. But that, so then they ask the questions, and they have a set of questions out that they print out. And they don't know a lot about Jesus. They don't know, they get stuff mixed up. Like they think that Moses took the animals on board the ark, and then God brought the flood. And, they get stuff like that mixed up, but they don't get doctrine mixed up. They don't get that Jesus is the Son of God, and they don't get that mixed up. They got that. So we're just founding people on the rock of obedience to Jesus' commands. Does that make sense?
Run that back.
Well, I'll say it again later, but we're just helping them to discover who Jesus is, to experience him slowly. Because a lot of us, we do a lot of fast evangelism sometimes, and we try to lead people to Jesus in America, but then that usually leads to like really slow discipleship, and that just kind of peters off, and people just kind of drop out. Have you ever seen that before? Oh yeah. In Asia, we're doing it backwards. We're doing it slow evangelism through Bible stories with persons of peace on their turf, at their job, where they're comfortable and where they're outsiders. We're doing really slow evangelism with stories, and then we're seeing rapid multiplication of disciples. But in America, we kind of got it backwards. We do this pushy street evangelism. You want to pray to receive Jesus right now? Make him Lord of your life. And you're like, no. Or maybe they'll just say yes. The Filipinos would just say yes. If Americans are like, do you want to pray to receive Jesus right now in your heart? And they're like, okay. All Asian people are like that. Okay, whatever.
Well, how do you make that, so to speak,
Shift.
shift, yeah?
Yeah, so we're gonna talk about that.
Oh.
Anybody got any questions?
If
Yes, sir.
if you were planning churches like you're saying your friend or you or someone, does that mean you keep going back and making sure each church is on track, or you just kind of
Yeah.
step back, or what do you
Yeah,
do?
I'm gonna be like this, and this is the pattern that we're gonna be talking about from Luke chapter 10. How do you do that? How does Peter and those other brothers from Joppa step out and let Cornelius and Caesarea up the coast there from where they were at? How did they step back and coach them from behind the scenes?
Right.
And there is a biblical pattern from Luke chapter 10 is the rest of the pattern, is the rest of the chapter of Luke chapter 10 before the Samaritan story. We'll go back to that tomorrow. How do you coach people from behind the scenes as a leadership? So I don't call people leaders right away in these experiencing God groups. I call them facilitators, right? Because you don't want new believers out just being leaders. Which one's easier, facilitator or a leader?
Facility.
What's the difference?
One is a little more aware, one's a little more knowledgeable about the word.
One's more knowledgeable about the word. A leader has more directives, right? Facilitator just has questions. He knows what to ask, and he knows, like we're supposed to meet like 2 o'clock on Sunday here. This guy gave me these questions, and I'm supposed to tell you all this story about Jesus, and I think we should, so let's do this. That's a facilitator. I don't know a lot, but this guy's telling me what to do, so I'm just going to do it. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
So we're training up a lot of facilitators, and later on, we're going to coach them to become leaders. When they have multiple networks, multiple streams of disciples to the 3rd or 4th generation, then somebody needs to start recognizing them as leaders. But they're not just going to hop into that leadership role, right? Because they're bad people. You don't want them to be leaders, right? Immediately. Anybody else? Yes, ma'am.
Do you encourage them to come together and pray as in those families,
In those networks.
in those
White
networks?
Ghost.
I mean,
Yeah.
somewhat of a regular basis.
So let's look at the next part. I'm glad you said that.
So-
So this level 1 is right here, this middle box. These are the discovering or experiencing Jesus stories or experiencing God stories, lessons. This is a lesson plan. And then this third box down here is level 2. Here's level 1. Here's level 2. Does that make sense? So if you got one lesson a week, how many weeks do you got worth of lessons? 20. Level 1 is, who is Jesus? What is he? What's sin? What is sin? I'm not a sinner. People stuff like, so you need to go through some of those stories where they understand what is sin, what is a sinner, and you let them know just by your actions that you're not a jerk. And you want to come to their house and talk about Jesus stories, and they're gonna know that you went over to Jessica's. What was her name? Jessica.
Jessica.
I mean, that night after we had this training, you came back, and that night you went out and you met Jessica and her whole family kind of opened up. And you went in their home. You're in people's homes all the time. Yeah. In America, it is a big deal if you can just get your foot in somebody else's house. In Asia, I'm in people's homes all day long. But in America, in white culture, black culture is way easier, but white culture, I don't know what it is. 20 years ago, we used to go to people's homes every Sunday, all Sunday long. We don't do that anymore. You have accomplished something. Let's make that one of our standards of success in our group. That if we can just get in the home. So Dwight is an expert.
No.
I was with him for 2 hours. And people were calling him up. Hey, Coach Kirk, can you come over here? I got a problem with this one. They're just like every 5 minutes calling him. Hey, I got this problem. He's like, well, he knows all about that. He can get into homes. If you can just get into a home, you are successful. If you can repeat a Bible story, that's another measurement of success. If you just can repeat a Bible story and see who's interested, and then when they're interested, then you get them to repeat it back to you later on, the second meeting maybe. Does that make sense? Is that easy? Can you tell a Bible story?
Me?
Yeah.
Sure.
Yeah. That's easy, right? If a 9-year-old little girl can do it, I can do it. But we've not been trained to tell Bible stories. We've been trained to give Bible verses and open up our big fat Bibles and point to this verse, and people just go, that's a big fat Bible. You know? So, you know, they're very put off by our churchianity. And we're dripping with it. We don't even know what we got for our Christianese language, you know. Brother, are you saved or you lost? You know? People are like, I'm here right now. I'm on the street, and I know where I'm at. They have no concept of what we're talking about, you know. So, tonight, write out your testimony. Go ahead and write it out. That's your homework for tonight. You know, got homework? Yeah, it's a bad word, I know. But write out your testimony. 3 parts. What your life was like before Jesus. Why you decided what's the basic, you know, include those basic elements of the gospel in your story. Why you believe, because the Bible says if you believe that Jesus Christ is raised from the dead and died for your sins, and you cry out to Him, He will save you. Right? Remember that part? When did that happen to you? Or what happened when you did that? Why did you do that? And then what is your life like now? Is everybody, is that simple? So write out your testimony, be able to tell it in 3 minutes, and tomorrow we'll practice. And then share some of the truths that you discovered. Share the story of Zacchaeus with somebody tonight. Can you do that? Can you share the story of Zacchaeus with somebody either tonight or by tomorrow morning? Just try it. God will put those people, when you're out getting coffee at McDonald's tomorrow morning, maybe God's going to give you that opportunity. So people are very open to hear Jesus stories. They're not open to come to church. Right? We cannot wait for them to come to our church. Jesus says, what? Go. Go find personal peace. Go make disciples. We cannot wait for Ashe County to come to this church. Does that make sense?
Jay, don't you feel like a whole lot of, you know, the way we have handled things in the past, the churches, people get saved and we expect them to be transformed tomorrow.
Yeah.
You know, and that's a problem. Because then we go, you better start doing this or you know.
Hey, bro, we missed you at church last Sunday.
Yeah.
How many of us have ever said that? Well, we just missed you. I used to be a youth pastor. I was, well, brother, we just missed you. But that means, why ain't you here? Right? Have you ever said that to anybody? Have you ever said that? Just go ahead and confess your sin. It's not a sin, but invite people to church is not a sin. I just want to say that out, flat out. Invite people to this church is not wrong. I am not saying don't invite people to this church. You understand? I'm saying we use that as an excuse to get us off the hook for making disciples by inviting them to church, and they're not coming. Well, the people who need Jesus the most in Ashe County, they've already made up their mind. They are not coming. And the best missionaries are in the harvest. Does that make sense? So, Dwight, why don't you lead us in prayer, and we'll close. Everybody understand what our homework is? Write down your testimony. Share the Zacchaeus story or something that you learned from this training with somebody by tomorrow. If you can't, nobody's going to embarrass you. Dwight.
Father, we come to you this evening, Lord, just ever so much grateful. Father, thanking you for sending